Welcome back. I guess we need to talk about Frazetta a little bit more. I've been asked to talk about some of the pieces that are going to be in the forthcoming auction from Profiles in History, and of course it's a pleasure to do so. And I'd like to start out by talking about the cover image, the Canaveral plate that's going to be used on the cover of the catalog. It's certainly a deserved position because it is a masterpiece. I want to start out by talking about it this way. I'd like to go back to my graduate school days. I had a professor by the name of Northrop Frye. Northrop Frye, a very eminent man, happened to be the world's leading literary critic, well respected throughout the world. Very well-read man, very heavily published. He took pride in telling his students he never read a newspaper, he never watched a TV news program, he just didn't bother because he knew it all. And by that, he has seen all the stories, time and time and time again. He saw them all in the great literature of the past. So if you go into the past, you go into, let's say, the ancient Greeks, and you read Euripides or Sophocles or Homer, the Iliad, the Odyssey. If you go up into the medieval period, you read Thomas Malory and all the adventures of King Arthur and the knights. If you go up a little further, you read Charles Dickens, read Balzac, read Dostoevsky. You've got all these great authors, and they're all using the same themes. They're all using the same ideas. The language is a little different. Obviously, the way they go about telling their stories is a little different, but the themes are the same. And so whenever you have art, art is also going to use themes that are the same from human history. When Frank Frazetta draws a horse, or he draws any kind of an animal, that is the same kind of horse and animal that goes back to the caves that I talked about in the earlier video. Well, here, Frazetta's illustrating a text from a Canaveral press book from 1965. It's called Tarzan and the Castaways. Here's a copy of the book. It's got another tremendous image on the cover that we're going to talk about later. But this is one of the great Canaverals that comes out of this book that is filled with nothing but great Canaveral plates. So when anybody talks about a Frazetta Canaveral plate, this is what they're referring to. They're referring to the 1962 to 1965 period and the drawings that were included in these two books. There's another book called Tarzan at the Earth's Core, which we'll also talk about later. So this illustrated a text in the book. The text was a very simple line. It said, "He had me captured by an African chief." That's all it said. Frazetta then drew this particular illustration to explain that. Here's the original. What a tremendous work of art. Without a doubt, a masterpiece. Everybody considers it one of the great, great pieces Frazetta ever drew. Now, when I look at this, I think it's an illustration, a great illustration, but it's far, far more than that. I look at it because I see metaphorical depth in this particular illustration. I see a metaphor for the human condition. I see man trying to break away from his limitations. I see all the world trying to pull man down and man trying to strive and transcend all of those negative things that are trying to get in his way. Furthermore, Tarzan is a symbol. What is he a symbol of? He's a symbol of mankind. He's a symbol of man striving, trying to better himself, trying to get beyond himself, trying to touch something beyond himself. He's trying to shed all those different things that are attempting to pull him back down. Now, this is a classic theme. It's a theme of heroism. It's a theme of escape. It's a theme of capture. We've seen this 1,000 times. And what Frazetta has done is taken this text and put in so much more into it. I talk about these things with Frazetta all the time. It used to befuddle him because he didn't know what to make of it. And eventually I got him to realize, Frank, the more you draw, the more that you have inside of you, the more you give. The more that flow of soul invades the piece of art that you're drawing, and it's there. And when a person is looking at it, a person takes these things out of that drawing because it is there. It's not something you consciously put in it. It's something you subconsciously put in it. And because you're a great artist, you've put a great deal of that in it. So once again, here we have a metaphor for the human condition. Beautifully drawn, beautifully illustrated. It took me 27 years to pick this piece up. I got it from Russ Cochran. Russ Cochran, of course, for decades was the go-to person if you wanted to find the quote-unquote good stuff. Russ had the good stuff. He started the field of original art collecting. He set standards in the field for original art collecting and also set standards in the field for publishing. His value to the field cannot be overestimated. He's simply that important to the field. Many of my major pieces ultimately came from Russ Cochran. Wasn't easy to get it from Russ, and that's the thing about collecting. Sometimes if you want to get something really good, you got to be patient, and when it does come up, you got to be prepared to pay for it. And that's what I did, because Russ called me up one Monday. He said, "Dave, I'm selling my collection." After 27 years, finally, Russ said, "If you want to buy this piece, it's yours. You got to get me the money by Friday." So I moved heaven and earth. I got him the money by Friday. I got the piece. It came in the mail. I opened it. I looked at it. I was stunned. I had never seen the original before. I picked it up. I walked over to the couch. I sat down. I put it on my lap. Collectors always have this experience. And I just stared at it. I could not believe how good it was. I could not believe how transforming it was. I couldn't believe how energizing it was. It really did enlarge my life. I was so happy to have this piece, and I've had it for 20 years now. And every time I look at it, I get a thrill out of it. I get a kick out of it. It just inspires me. It enlarges my life. It makes me a better human being. It's no wonder that when we were putting together the documentary, Painting with Fire, everybody we talked to wanted to talk about the Canaveral plates. They didn't want to talk about the oil paintings. They didn't want to talk about anything else. They wanted to talk about the Canaveral plates because all these artists, all these collectors, they were also profoundly influenced by the Canaveral plates. Most collectors have never seen them in person. Most collectors have never owned one. Very different. There's not that many of them. I think there's a total of 29, of which 20 are simply sublime. The others, excellent, but not quite in the same category. This one, easily right at the top. One of the top 2, one of the top 3. It just depends who you talk to on any given day. And all these people in the documentary could not say enough. Everybody was affected by it, and the artists profoundly influenced by it. Nobody was drawing like this at that time. Frank was using a kind of a thinned ink technique. The Japanese had been using it for 1,000 years, sumi ink wash paintings, and Frazetta kind of adapted that style, but he did it unknowingly. He had no idea about those particular drawings. He just did it naturally, because he told me when he was doing these pieces, he said he didn't want too much contrast. It was too harsh to the eye. So he watered down the inks a little bit to soften that contrast, and lo and behold, your eye is drawn into the piece, and it just engages you a little more fully. I think the Canaveral press period, along with his painting of the Conans, are easily the 2 finest periods, the 2 finest creative periods in the life of Frazetta. I don't think he ever reached higher heights artistically and just in terms of artistic excellence than those 2 periods. So in any case, if you're thinking of buying it, and if you got the means to buy it, I would go after it, because whoever gets this piece next time, I doubt if you're going to see it again in your lifetime. It's simple as that. It's always been my motto, if you have to overpay, overpay. But at least you have the art in your hands and you're happy with it. And you're going to be happy with it long term. And the quality is there, and therefore, if you need money, you can always sell it. So there's no downside to it, really. So in any case, I just wanted to make a few words about this particular piece. And I think it's sensational. It's a masterpiece. It's on the cover of the catalog. We'll talk about the cover of Tarzan and the Castaways next, and the cover of Tarzan at the Earth's Core. And then we'll also talk about one of Frazetta's pencil drawings. There's so much to say about his pen and ink stuff. Like I said, I think he's just unrivaled when it comes to pen and ink. I've just never seen anybody that can do this kind of thing. I've Flash Gordon pages. I've owned all the classic illustrators. I've had them all. I've looked at them, lived with them, studied them, traded them away, sold them, kept all my Frazettas. That's got to tell you something. Thanks again for listening to this video. We'll talk again very, very soon. Pretty nice, huh? Thanks.